Hello, my name is Bullins, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what caused the rise and fall of the Islamic Golden Age regarding its position in the scientific world. Introduction. Today, Islamic innovation is far from that of its Western counterparts. Since the end of the Islamic Golden Age, 1258 AD, the geographical area in which the first four Islamic caliphates ruled has remained stagnant. None can successfully argue otherwise, as according to Pakistani physicist Pervez Amirali Hoodboy in the 2007 Physics Today article, Muslim countries have 9 scientists, engineers, and technicians per 1,000 people compared to the world average of 41. Simultaneously, Muslims make up around 24% of the world population, but contribute just 1% of the world's scientific literature. Since the beginning of the Nobel laureate in 1901, only 2 scientists from Muslim-majority countries have won in the sciences: physics in 1979 and chemistry in 1999. The grim fact is there is no significant literature being published from this geographical area to advance any scientific field. But this was not always true. In the Islamic Golden Age, the 4 caliphates of the time were examples of great innovation, writing the canon of medicine, which was a leading practice until the 1800s, inventing algebra, and the base 10 numeral system the world uses today. As a result of this clear discrepancy when compared to its modern-day counterpart, the question, what caused the rise and fall of the Islamic Golden Age, with regards to its position in the scientific world, holds great value to today's understanding of history and is why I chose this question. Defining the question. In order to answer this question, a few terms need to be defined in the context of this paper. The current geographical area of the Islamic world is much larger than that of the Golden Age. Today, one can argue it ranges from Spain in the west to Indonesia in the east, comprising of 1.8 billion people in between. When mentioned the Arabic world, the Islamic world, or Muslim world, I'm referring to the peak geographical area reached when combining the area conquered by the original 4 caliphates, unless otherwise stated. When defining events, many historians tend to divide sections in history with wars and bloodshed, as those tend to lead to boundary shifts. When referring to the word caused in the question, the causes being looked at will include bloodshed, but are not limited to such events. Other defining variables include ideology, religion, technology, and geography. When referring to a position in the scientific world, I'm asking a 2-part question. The first is, what were the causes that enabled the caliphates to become world-leading innovators, and what caused the caliphates to stagnate in their scientific endeavors? Methods and processes. While beginning to research the proposed question, I gathered information by reading accomplished and credible authors with knowledge on the history of the Middle East and North Africa. I believe this was the best approach to gather accurate information, considering my limitations of money and access to professionals. When reading, I took notes that I deemed important information related to the proposed question. A problem I ran into was a lack of information on the rulers themselves, as intellectuals are the main subject of most literature. To address this problem, I used Britannica to assess if there are trends with successful caliphs, looking at their careers and personalities if given, while taking notes. I then compiled my notes into a Google Doc with attached sources for each resource used. I'll be utilizing these notes as I write about my findings. My findings. Initial drivers. There are many external drivers of change involving the rise of the Islamic Golden Age. However, there are 3 drivers of change that were found to be the most impactful: war, religion, and the prevalence of translation. My ending drivers were similar to my initial drivers, and they included ideological reform and war. Analysis. Initial drivers. The Islamic Revolution is just as important as the French or Russian revolutions. What makes the Islamic Revolution different, however, is the way the revolutionaries unified themselves, not under tribe or ethnicity, but under religion and language. This unique aspect allowed for a comparably cosmopolitan society where people from all aspects of life could contribute culturally and politically, creating an optimal environment for innovation. The leading cause of this innovation was the translation movement. From the only times in history, science relied upon sponsorships from individual wealthy donors. It wasn't the wealthy performing experiments or university-sponsored researchers discovering something new, simply a generous, wealthy aristocrat willing to give money to translators. By today's standards, this doesn't appear to be scientific work. The key piece of information that many don't give credit to is that people learn. While translating works from Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Euclid, translators became experts in a wide variety of subjects and added their own points to the works of other Greek, Indian, and Italian intellectuals. While it is well known that the translation movement in the Islamic Golden Age holds great significance for the Arabic world's success, however, there is an underlying question in the translation movement. What was the motivation behind donating huge amounts of money to intellectuals? The answer is religion. Religion was the driving force of Arabic society and continues this trend today. As mentioned previously, religion was a unique unifier in the Rashidun, Umayyad, Abbasid, and Fatimid caliphates. In other societies, religion was part of everyday life, but Islam was still and still is today a more demanding faith to follow. With prayer 5 times a day and strongly recommended visits to holy sites, the faith of Islam is comparably intense to its Western counterparts. As a result, the Muslim population followed Muhammad's teachings rigorously, often quoting Muhammad as a reason for donating to the poor and unemployed. One such quote, "Charity is for those in need who, in Allah's cause, are restricted from travel and cannot move about the land, seeking for trade or work." This clearly allows for scientists and intellectuals to fit this category. Therefore, it became common practice for wealthy individuals to sponsor translators, mathematicians, philosophers, doctors, and astronomers. The last initial driver is war. Naturally, becoming a powerful nation would help scientific innovation, as security allows for people to commit to non-essential activities. Without a secure environment, society would be focused on staying alive rather than leisure activities. Once again, the Islamic faith had a lot to do in terms of motivation, the caliphate's geographical expansion, and the way they conducted that expansion. Within the Quran, there are many verses telling people how to conduct violence against Muslims and non-Muslims. The most prominent verses on war are known as the sword verses. They illustrate how and when to use violence. One of these verses states, quote, when the sacred months are over, slay the idolaters wherever you find them. Arrest them, besiege them, and lie in ambush everywhere for them. If they repent and take to prayer and render their alms levy, allow them to go their way. God is forgiving and merciful. Chapter 9, verse 5. This sword verse gives a good outline on the way religion played a role in how Islamic caliphates conducted war. It also shows a reasoning behind fighting, which is to expand Islam. And my ending drivers. Variables that led to the success of the Islamic Golden Age were also the largest contributors to the demise. Religious influence was clearly the most impactful variable when starting the Islamic Golden Age's scientific success. However, using religion as motivation and a unifier for society is a dangerous gamble and comes with many negative side effects. One side effect is how people interpret the Quran. If interpretation changes, so does motivation, therefore having an effect on the funding and mass support on specific issues. A person by the name of Imam Hamid al-Ghazali single-handedly changed how Muslims read the Quran when writing The Incoherence of Philosophers. Al-Ghazali can be compared to St. Augustine and how he provided coherence to the Catholic faith in his book Cities of God. Coherence is a poison to innovation, creating a false state of satisfaction. Not only did al-Ghazali unify the Islamic faith, but he did so against science, claiming that the manipulation of numbers is the work of the devil, thus stopping further innovation in the sciences. The stagnation of the Islamic world began 100 years before the largely agreed upon date that concludes the Islamic Golden Age because of al-Ghazali. However, the point of no return is the sacking of Baghdad, and with good reason. In the year 1258, the Mongols surrounded Baghdad and offered a surrender, a one-time offer as per tradition. The offer was rejected. Over the coming weeks, almost 1 million people were killed. The only people that were spared were Nestorian Christians because Hülagü Khan's mother was a Nestorian Christian. Over the next month, the city was razed, destroying the scientific center of the world and the famous House of Wisdom, a school that housed one of the world's largest libraries at the time. Not only did the Mongol invasions destroy books, but they decimated the population so much that it took the Middle East 450 years to regain the population it lost from the Mongol raids. By then, the late 1700s, the world had moved on from inventing algebra to calculus, traditional medicine to the verge of germ theory, and astrolabes to telescopes. The Islamic world is too far behind to catch up to the West. Conclusion. At the peak of the Islamic Golden Age, the Islamic world had managed to invent algebra, Arabic numerals, the syringe, soap, and identified measles as a disease. In order to achieve this, the Islamic world heavily invested in the sciences and translators due to religious motivation. Along with the security of having a powerful army, the Islamic caliphates achieved much success. However, the use of religion as motivation was likely a double-edged sword. providing the motivation to invest in the sciences, but also stopping innovation cold in its tracks as the interpretation of the Quran changed. And those are my sources.